Hello and welcome. In this video, we are going to take another look at HTML lists. This video is part of a larger series of videos that focuses on the introduction to HTML and CSS. Specifically, this video is going to look at ordered lists. This video sort of expects that you've done some work with the unordered lists already, although it's not required. We're going to go through a completely separate example here. However, though, I would encourage you to go ahead and watch that video as well. So to begin with, you'll notice here that we are at the W3 Schools site. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the ordered lists syntax. And you'll notice here that the tags for an ordered list are the OL tag that defines the start and end of an ordered list. And then you have the LI tag for the individual elements in the ordered list. The LI tag is actually shared with the unordered list and the ordered list. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go through, much like in our earlier examples, we're just going to build a separate file for these demos. We're going to go back again to Visual Studio here. I'm going to go ahead and create a new HTML page. And what we're going to do is in an attempt to sort of provide a little bit of structure here, I'm just going to go ahead and give this the title of lists ordered. And then I'll use this again for my H1 tag so that we have a nice header in our body. And then what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into an example. Now, before we do that, I do want to take one more look at the attributes for the HTML ordered list. This is going to be a little bit different than with the unordered list. You'll notice that we have a type attribute that helps us decide what the ordered list should look like. Now, I want to be real careful here when we talk about appearances, because again, we're not focusing on the style, we're just looking at the structure. Although with the ordered list, we sort of get a little bit of style, if you would, for free. It's almost by necessity if you're going to have an ordered list that you have to indicate then the types of bulleting, for instance, whether you're going to be numbers, uppercase, lowercase, Roman numerals, and so on. So again, it's almost by necessity we have to talk a little bit about the type attribute. But without further ado, though, let's go ahead and go back and let's just go ahead and create a simple ordered list. Excuse me real quick. And that what we want to do is we'll start off, we're just going to call this one example one. I'm going to go ahead and use an H2 tag here to delineate each of my examples here. So there's going to be our example number one. We're going to go with a ordered list. You'll notice right off the bat that you can put an ordered list directly inside of the body. Ordered list can be nested in any number of tags. It's actually a pretty flexible element. But you'll notice here that inside the ordered list, you don't have a lot of options. In other words, you have to use a list item, and that's all you've got. As a matter of fact, if you try to put something else in there, let's go ahead and do that here. We're just going to put in the word example here. You should actually get a warning, depending on your IDE, that says that you are trying to create invalid HTML5. Basically, text or any other element other than an LI tag cannot be inside of an OL tag directly. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the individual list items. And in this first example, we're just going to call this one item number one, item number two, and not very interesting here, but we're going to go and do item number three. And I'm going to try once again here to go ahead and split my view. This time it seems to work. This seems to, again, be a little bit of a bug in Visual Studio. Still trying to get this one tracked down. But you can see here that I have the ability now to see what my page looks like in the design view. And so I can even go ahead and copy a fourth item in there. And you can see that it updates pretty quickly. Again, there are other options for this. VS Code has something similar to this. A number of the good IDEs have the ability to do that. Again, don't worry about it if you don't have that feature. You don't have to use it. What you can do is you can simply just go ahead and save the file. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and save this as lists ordered. And then what we'll want to do is go find that file in your file system and then just simply pull it up in your web browser. And again, that's perfectly fine. And you'll notice that right off the bat that with the ordered list, I get the numbers by default. Sure enough, if you go over to the documentation real quick, you'll see that that is, in fact, the default, the type equal to 1. So what we want to do is just follow this up with another example. We're going to go ahead and try the uppercase letters. next. And so what we'll do is we'll come back over here to Visual Studio. We'll just go ahead and copy the entire ordered list, no real changes. We are, of course, going to change our H2 example here to example number 2. But what we want to do is for the ordered list, we want to change the type of, and then we're just going to go ahead and change it to A. And you can see here that now we have our A, B, C, D instead of 1, 2, 3. Again, I encourage you to go through and play with all of the other examples. But before we leave this, what we want to do is we want to follow this up with one more example, and that we want to see how we can go ahead and do the sub items for each of our items. And so we'll go ahead and do this as our example number 3. And again, I encourage you just to simply bounce out to your web browser, refresh your page, and make sure that this is actually displaying the same way it is here in Visual Studio. Now, we've already learned from our last experience with the ordered list, with the unordered lists, that you do have a lot of flexibility with the individual list items. I am going to briefly go through this one more time, and you'll notice that you can actually add any other type of tag inside, or most any other type of tag inside of a list item. And to demonstrate that, I'm just going to attempt to add one more list item. And you'll notice that if I attempt to open a tag here, you'll see I've got a lot of options, including an image tag, a paragraph tag, div tag, span tags. There's really a lot of options. There's a few that you can't have inside of a list item. But effectively, what we're going to do is we're going to leverage that by inserting now inside of an li tag another ordered list. Now you can technically do an unordered list inside of a ordered list if you want to as well, but we're just going to stick with nested ordered lists to see the behavior here. And we're going to go ahead and throw in just a couple of sub items. I'm not going to make this one very interesting. We'll save that for a final example, but we have our sub item number 1 and our sub item number 2. And I'm actually going to stop right there, because what I want to do is I want to take a look and see what happens here by default. So you'll notice that because I didn't specify for that second nested ordered list, that I defaulted back to 1, 2, and so on. And that might be okay. That might actually be what you want to have. And again, that's perfectly fine. Or what you can do is you can just simply come in here and you can specify then the type. And then maybe what we want to do is the lowercase a's, and you can see here there's capital A for the item number 1, and then sub item number 1 and sub item number 2 gets the lowercase letters. Again, all sorts of possibilities here. We can again do the same thing for the other items in the outer list. Just be careful, make sure to nest them correctly. I'm just going to go ahead and add, for instance, the 2 list items. Oops, great example of a mistake here. I didn't catch my ordered list tag. So we do need to make sure to have your OL tag. And again, we're going to just go ahead and do the same thing for the other 2. Yeah, not really all that sophisticated with this particular example, just mainly for you to get an idea of what this is supposed to look like. And you can see here I've carried over my type with all the sub items as well. I'm going to come out here to my web browser one more time. I just simply want to refresh the page, hitting F5, so that you can see here that it does in fact work. Not the most aesthetically appealing list that you've ever seen. However, though, we're going to save style for later videos. This is just focused on the structure. Now, for our final example here, what I would like to do is I'd like for you to see exactly how you can practically use ordered lists for things like a table of contents. And again, you could use a table for that, but for a little bit of variety, let's go ahead and use a table of contents, or make a table of contents using a list, an ordered list. And for this example, I'm actually going to have a little bit of fun with this. I'm going to go use some uppercase Roman numbers as well as the lowercase Roman numbers. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to tell you what, let's do the uppercase letters with the lowercase Roman numbers, Roman numerals. And the idea here is what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a basic outline of what we're trying to accomplish with these videos, starting with the HTML subject and then the CSS, the JavaScript. So we're just going to do a couple of these. So what I'm going to do is, for our last example here, we're going to go ahead and call this one example number 4. We're going to go ahead and build a table of contents here. As a matter of fact, I'm actually going to go ahead and put this here. So a table of contents. Again, we're going to keep it pretty simple just for you to get an idea of how you would go about doing this. And we are again going to use an ordered list. And for the outer ordered list, I'm going to use the type. And I'm going to specify the capital letter A because I want all of the outer letters to be capital letters. And for the individual list items, we're going to go ahead and start off with HTML. And we're going to make another one for our CSS, some of our future topics and some of the videos, JavaScript, and so on. And I'm not going to fill all of these up. But what we want to do now is we want to go ahead and break this out even further. We're going to go ahead and have our ordered list and another list item here. And for this ordered list, what I want to do is I want to have the type, and I'm going to associate it now with the lowercase Roman numerals. So you notice here, this is going to be lowercase I to indicate what we want here. Again, you don't have to necessarily use that. You can play around with this. This is just to give us a little bit of variety. And then for our topics under HTML, what we would have, for instance, is going to be the tags and the attributes. And then maybe what we can do here is under one of the tags, we can actually go an additional level deep with another ordered list, or maybe even for a little, again, for a little bit of variety, why don't we do an unordered list? And then for the unordered list, why don't we go ahead and list some of the tags that we have already looked at? And that is going to be the head, the body, and again, I'm just going to add a couple in here. Maybe we'll have our table and so on. So again, you can keep going with this as much as you want to. For some attributes that we've already covered, again, this is not going to be a full list. We'll go ahead and do an unordered list here. For a list item here, maybe we look at our source tag. And one that we have, or rather our source attribute, sorry. And then for the list item, then we'll have style and then so on. And again, this is just meant to give us a little bit of a start here on this. If we save this, you can see that it's go ahead and refresh down here. It's went ahead and refreshed for us down here in Visual Studio. And then if you come out here to your web browser and again, refresh, you can see here, you've got what essentially starts off being basic table of contents. And again, you can play around with how you want to break this down, but it gives you a little bit of variety. And again, let's go ahead and take this just one step further to emphasize how you can leverage this inside of the individual lists. And that what I'd like to do is off screen here, I'm actually going to the W3 Schools site and I'm pulling up the head element, the head tag, the link. And what I'd like to do now is I'd like to go back here to the list item. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully change all of these over to the hyperlinks. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide, this is for the head element. And then we can insert the text here inside so that our hyperlink works correctly. And I'm only going to do this for a couple because I don't want to make this video too long here, but we can do the same thing now for the body. And I'm going to just see real quick, should be able to just select. Again, I'm off screen here, not hiding anything from you, but just figured that you would already know how to get to these pages. And so all I'm doing here is I'm copying now the W3 Schools URL so that my hyperlinks now work. And there we go. We'll stop with those two because we don't want this to take forever. But now if you come out here to your web browser and simply refresh this, Now what you have is a bunch of hyperlinks inside of your unordered list, and sure enough, it takes you to the head element and to the body element. And this might be a great way of structuring your own personal documentation for this course, for any other course, or any documentation that you might need professionally when you're building maybe a manual, user's manual for your users and so on. So hopefully you found this video useful. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And thank you for watching.